Emblem Path of Radiance, the forgotten middle child of the series. It was the first console Fire Emblem game to be released overseas, and is the 9th entry of the franchise. Now, to be quite blunt, like many other Fire Emblem games before it, Path of Radiance was born and bred in an abusive household in the form of the GameCube. The game was released in 2005, 1 year prior to the release of the Wii, and was thus already aboard a sinking ship. But it also received next to no advertising, and as this was before the time the internet became more mainstream, the game was guaranteed to be dead on arrival. And now let me explain to you why Path of Radiance's mistreatment by Nintendo was downright criminal, and why it deserves your attention over the 16 or so other Fire Emblem games that have been released up to this point. For point number 1, let's talk about this game's story. This game is by far, in my opinion, the Fire Emblem game with the best world building, which it achieves through the main story of course, but also the accumulation of the smaller scenes, seen in the base conversations, which you can essentially think of as support conversations where you talk to random NPCs, which add a little bit more characterization to this content that you won't see in other Fire Emblem games. Stuff like this makes this game themes and ideas such as racism and slavery seem way more significant and integral to the story, rather than something that's glanced over in a support conversation or two. I don't exactly want to go into spoiler territory, so you have to take my word for it when I say that the Tellius Games' writing is peak Fire Emblem, and leagues above anything that Intelligent Systems has made in the last 10 or probably even 20 years. And unlike Three Houses, the game's plot doesn't devolve into the comically evil mole people being responsible for 90% of the story. For point number 2, let's talk mechanics. First of all, this game reintroduced the skills after they were missing in the GBA games, but the skill system in this game hasn't quite reached the 3DS era levels of customizability, so the game strikes a nice little middle ground for people like me, who enjoyed the skills in games such as FE4 and Thracia, but aren't exactly fans of modern Fire Emblem's overuse of them. But the game didn't just add back mechanics, but also introduced new ones, such as the shove command, where you can push one of your units one space forward depending on their weight. And they also replaced Manakits in this game with the Lagoos, which are basically Manakits that rely on a transformation gauge to transform rather than a Dragonstone, which is actually a good thing since many players may not use Manakits due to a fear of wasting all their Dragonstone uses when they might need it for later. The game also added the base mechanic, which is essentially the place where you'll be reading the previously mentioned base conversations, as well as this game supports. You can also forge weapons here, which the game lets you give your own custom name, which is sorta neat I guess. But also, this is where you can award bonus XP, which you gain based on how well you beat each map, which disencourages turtling strategies in a somewhat creative and less forceful way, as well as making the games piss easy on lower difficulties. And with the topic of the game being piss easy, we might as well bring up the third point, this game's difficulty. Now despite this being Fire Emblem, which prior to being known for its degeneracy, was actually known for its difficulty, this game is easy. And when I say it's easy, I mean the developers literally removed the hardest difficulty in international versions, and then added an extra easy difficulty to make sure even the most incompetent of game journalists could beat this game. This game was practically made for newcomers, seeing basically every unit is viable with bonus XP, and Ike isn't a pushover like the lords in the GBA Fire Emblem games. Now of course some of the more experienced veterans of the series may see this game as below them, but really, I'd argue Fire Emblem is at its peak in self-made challenges such as Iron Man runs and draft races, so you could always do one of those in order to spice up the gameplay. But there is one more thing you should probably know. The voice acting in this game is, well...
Ah, you're up. About time.
Father, what's going on? Where are you?
Your voice. I remember you. Think you can defeat me, the man who taught you how to fight? What a fool.
Ike, look! Up there!
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing Nintendo didn't try marketing you.